Hello, I am so happy today to be talking to Carla Hall, a rebel. Hello, Carla.
Hello, Gretchen. I'm really happy to be talking to you, period, because I really loved our last conversation. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. So you know Carla Hall because she's a world-renowned chef. She has a competitor on Bravo's Top Chef and Top Chef All Stars. She was co-host of the ABC series The Chew and does a lot on Good Morning America. She has several cookbooks. Most recently, her award-winning cookbook was Carla Hall's Soul Food, Every Day in Celebrations. And as if that is not enough, she also has a terrific podcast called Say Yes with Carla Hall, which comes from Carla, your mantra, which I love, which is say yes, adventure follows, then growth. So that's like, there's a lot there in those very short words. And Carla, I know because we've spoken before that you are a rebel. And so I thought, let's get into the rebel tendency, because clearly you're enormously ambitious and productive and creative. And so just like how you harness the energy of the rebel tendency, and then how you've learned to work with maybe the limitations and the weaknesses of the tendency, because all the tendencies have their pros and their cons. One place I wanted to start out by asking, you started your career in accounting, which probably not many people know. Do you think that being a rebel helped you make that transition back when you were just starting out?
Oh, 100%. I think as a rebel, I have a strong sense of self, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. I mean, aside from the fact that I'm a Taurus, but I have always felt a strong sense of what I wanted to do. And I don't think I would have had the courage to leave my good paying job and go into the unknown without being a rebel. I think that, one day I was like, nope, this is not what I want to do. I'm leaving.
And it was just sort of easy for you to be like, okay, drop mic, I'm out. And probably to start something that a lot of people were like, what are you thinking? Like, how do you think you're going to succeed? And
well, exactly. And when I look back, everything that I did in terms of changing, whether it seemed random outside, I always went, because I am, I guess, ambitious or a little bit of a perfectionist when I get stressed, that I go to the highest thing. So I did accounting. I knew I didn't want to do that, but I was still studying for the CPA exam. So I still took the CPA exam and passed it while I was modeling in Paris. So, I mean, because I had to finish that thing. I had to give that piece of paper to my mom and say, yes, I can do this. And I think as a rebel, I need to finish. I need to know that I could do that thing and a strong sense of self. But it had nothing to do with wanting to do that.
Right. So it's more like
accounting.
Right. This isn't going to beat me. It's not like I can't make it. Like I'll do it, I'll make it, and then just decide it's not the thing for me. So what kinds of things do you think rebels, they want to do what they want to do. They can do anything they choose to do. They resist outer and inner expectations. What kind of things do you think it makes it easier for you to do? And then what are some things where you think maybe it makes it harder for you to do certain things?
I think when I think about young kids, it makes it easier for me not to be swayed by peer pressure.
Okay.
I think that's something that everybody can relate to. I am not swayed. If somebody's drinking, I don't want to drink, I'm not drinking. If they are passing drugs and passing this and that, I'm like, I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I think that's the simplest thing. I police myself. That's pretty much what I do. I think when I'm in a situation and I think it's the right thing to do or the right thing for me to do, be it professionally or personally, I do that thing. I don't need to be micromanaged. So, okay. So the other side of that.
Okay. Yeah. Because every upside has its downside. Yeah. What's kind of the flip side of that?
When I feel like I'm being micromanaged and I don't want people, you don't trust me. You don't think I can do I get a little twisted. It really is a problem. I've been in situations and jobs where I feel like I'm micromanaged and it's counterproductive for me. Yeah.
See, okay, let's talk about this, because this is where I feel like the other three tendencies like misunderstand rebels more than the other. I feel like they're the most misunderstood tendency. And I think, looking at rebels, I think a lot of times, from the very best intentions and meaning very well, the other tendencies kind of interfere with the rebel process and actually slow it down, make it harder, and, like you say, counterproductive. So where have you seen that show up, where someone's like, "Ooh, let's set up a deliverable," or like, "Let's have check-in meetings every week," and you're like, "No, no, no, you're making me want to resist." Have you experienced that? And like, what kinds of things have people done where you're like, you're trying to help, you're actually, you're messing with my thing?
Oh my God. Okay, let's just take an event where I want all of the information up front. So let's say I am doing an appearance, and I understand they have to check in. I want all of the information up front. You give me the information and I'm going to manage my time. I know exactly how much time I need to do everything. I need to prep. I need to set everything out. And then you come in and you're like, well, this is what we're going to, have you done this? Have you done? And all of a sudden it is like putting the brakes on. I don't even want to finish the thing. I don't want to do it. I'm annoyed. And it actually belies who people think I am, because it's all internal, because I do have this external
professional
expectation.
Yeah.
Right. But it makes me not want to do it. And this happened recently.
That spirit of resistance.
It is really real. I had my time planned. The day was set out. I had the beats. And then all of a sudden, this other thing comes in, like, oh, by the way, we did your food for you. Oh, by the way, we did. And I'm like, wait, what? And it wasn't the way that I wanted it.
Right.
It wasn't helpful to me. It would have been helpful for anybody else because they took all this work from me. But in order to do the task, I have a process that I need to follow. And it's okay if I knew that in the beginning, but I didn't. But I also don't need you to keep checking in and changing the script. But I feel like it feels like flipping the script or checking in on me.
Right. Right. Or like, you're not trusting me to kind of do it in my own way, in my own time. And like, by imposing your own structure on it, it's making me want to push back.
Yes.
So if you were going to advise others about working with a rebel, I mean, one thing that I to me as an upholder, which is obviously the opposite, it's kind of like, and this is very much in the line with what you're saying, is like, give the rebel the information they need to make an informed choice. Tell them the consequences of their action or inaction, and then back away. Yes. Do you feel like that's like, how would you tell somebody to work with you as a rebel? Like you say, give me the information up front. Like, that's very constructive. Like we get that.
That is very constructive. I know that when I've hired people, and I have said, if you are the type of person who needs somebody on you, like all the time, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? I said, I'm not the one. You won't do well here. I actually set people up. I said, you will not do well with me. I will give you your information. I won't micromanage you, because I do project the thing that I want as well. And I realize that. So my team knows that. And the way that, and it helps that I'm the boss, because I know that this is the thing that I want. But what they have learned is that they know that I want to get to point B, but I may not know how to get to point B. And even though I'm very sure that I want to go to point B, I will still listen to them in terms of helping me get there. So that is the best way to work with me, is I will listen, because I will honor you. I also project the fact that you know what is in your heart and how you work best. So I'm like, let me listen to you. Let me listen to what you want to do and how you perceive this information. Because everybody is an adult. And I think that's the thing about rebels. We figure everybody is an adult. So you're going to take care of you. You're going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of myself. And we're going to all come together and get to the next place.
Well, I think that that's sometimes where obligers have a little bit of an issue, because because they're meeting outer expectations, they kind of need other people to say like, hey, this isn't fair. Hey, I'm expecting too much. But like an upholder and a rebel would be like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and you do what you're going to do, and everybody just takes care of themselves. And then obligers are like, that doesn't work that well for me. And so I do feel like this is one of the places where you really kind of have to have the perspective of the other tendencies, because like as an upholder and as rebel, you and I might understand each other very well, because you're like, yeah, Gretchen, I'm not going to do that. And I'd be like, Carla, you know what? I'm not going to do that either, and we're like, okay, so it goes. But for an obliger, they might be like, well, that's really important to you. I feel like that outer expectation is very serious. I want to take that very seriously. So we sort of have to understand the different pressures that different people feel working as a team.
You are so right, because my husband is an obliger.
Well, can I just say, when one person is a rebel, usually the other person in a team is an obliger. So you're in the pattern, the very successful pattern. So how does this come up in your relationship?
Just recently, it was 2 days ago, we were at a restaurant. I'm sure I could come up with more examples, but just this is the one that popped into my head. 2 days ago, we're at a restaurant, and I'm like, well, what do you want? I mean, we both have menus. I've decided. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you want? What do you want?
Right,
He's like,
right.
oh my God. And he goes into this thing, and he was like, almost like a meltdown. He's like, oh, so he was, because he's a little tenderoni. And I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. Because I'm like, why don't you know what you want? This is the menu. Why are you waffling? And for him, it's it shakes him.
Yeah.
And it's only when you're talking about this now that I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a little harsh, because he is an obliger. And had I made suggestions, said, oh, what about this? I know that you like these, because he will feel seen,
Yeah.
And I have to slow down sometimes and not push ahead into the things that I want to do, because I'm very clear.
Yeah.
And he is very much a caretaker, very much a nurturer. And so when I rush ahead, he feels like I don't see him.
And are there ways where you're like, oh, you're as like a married couple, you're a good team because you do certain, like, what are you taking care of versus what he's taking care of? So like, what kinds of things would he sort of manage, because they don't suit the rebel tendency very well? Can you think of examples?
So Matthew's a planner. If we're going on a trip, he has his folders, like where the great places are to eat, what the attractions are to see, where we're going to stay. I just know I want to go there.
Right. Like,
but
I land at the airport and then I can just evaluate.
Yeah. Right. And I'm a fly by the seat of the pants kind of person. And so I will allow him to plan ahead, because that's when, as a rebel, I get into trouble, because sometimes I'm going to go really quickly in the wrong direction. So I have to do a lot of backtracking.
Ooh, interesting.
And so that definitely happens to me. I mean, it's kind of like when, on every computer I've had, the backspace key is the one that gets worn off first. That's my life.
That's so interesting though. So you feel like you kind of see what you want. You're like, I'm going to go there, but maybe in reflection, you're like, oh, I wish I had, like, I want to rethink that or something. So you're complimentary in that way, and that he is planning and thinking ahead. Now, does it ever become a point of conflict for you? Because sometimes rebels want to be spontaneous and others want to have more of like a plan, or like, these are the things we're going to do. Do you ever feel like, ooh, why are we chaining ourselves to this calendar? I feel trapped by all these plans, but he feels like, oh, I made this reservation. We have to show up. Does that ever become kind of spontaneity versus planning? Is that ever a conflict?
100%. Yes, all the time. If it is a long-term thing, like if it's 3 months from now, I mean, oh my God, just the other day, Matthew said, I asked you about this and you said yes. I'm like, you asked me a month ago.
Right.
I was all for it. And then now that it's come, other things have come up. It doesn't mean that I don't care about it, but I kind of forgot
Right.
because I am best when you call me like a week out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, 2 days out would be great. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it would be really
No,
great.
I mean, a lot of rebels say they don't, even if it's something that they like to do, they don't like the plan, like feeling trapped into a plan. It's better if it's, and so would you say that if you're dealing with a rebel, maybe that's a way to kind of suggest things like, if you feel like it, like tomorrow night, I see there's going to be a concert in the park. Like, if we feel like it, that could be a fun thing to do, where it's more like, if we felt like it, we could do it sort of
Yes.
kind of on this calendar, instead of being like, to me, I'd be like, well, are we doing it or not? I need to know a week in advance so I can like wrap my mind around it.
Right. And I wouldn't be hemmed in. Now, that said,
Yes.
though, Gretchen, I feel like personally I'm that way, but professionally, I need to have my calendar done. I need to be able to look at the calendar and say, okay, because that meeting is set in stone. I need to feel willy-nilly around the time of the meeting.
Okay. So you have kind of one mode that's professional and one mode that's personal. So for professional, you really do embrace more structure.
Yes.
And is that just because that's what serves you professionally, and you kind of get that if you're going to succeed, you need to do it this way, or you prefer to be able to anticipate and plan? Like, why do you feel like it's different when you're in your professional mode?
I think in professional mode, I'm an overachiever. And
Mm-hmm.
so I need to be able to plan. I need to be able to produce. I need
Mm-hmm.
to be able to feel that I can do this thing and I can meet, the expectations, outer or inner. And
Yeah.
most times professionally, it's inner.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like why I took the CPA exam when I knew I wasn't going to use it.
Kind of. Well, I wonder if part of it is like the identity, like it's your identity as like this creative person. And if a person is creative, like they want output, they want to put things into the world, they want to show their ideas, they want to engage. And so maybe for you, it's more like, these are the tools that I need to do to be able to be who I am and put
Mhm.
myself into the world, more than, well, I said I would, so I have to.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because the more structure I have, the more freedom I have.
Ooh, interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You have people who work for you.
Yes.
How, when they, so obviously you tell them what to do in some ways, but in some ways they tell you what to do.
Hmm.
Is there a way to think about it in your mind so that it doesn't trigger that spirit of resistance, where they're saying, hey, Carla, we need this by Friday, or hey, Carla, you have to show up at 3 o'clock, so that it does, like, are there like mental exercises or disciplines where you, to remind yourself, this is what I want if I'm going to put my work into the world, or whatever?
Yes, I think it's one of those things where last minute doesn't work because I've already imposed and set my mind to the
Mm,
thing, right?
okay.
I've already
Yes.
planned my day. I already know I'm going to do this. And if something isn't on the count, okay, point in case, I love my assistant. She is so amazing. But if I have planned a Zoom call and up until 2 minutes before, I can do whatever I want to do. If I get to that calendar and the link isn't there, it sends me like, because I've already planned my
Right.
thing. I mean, as a
Right.
rebel, I'm like, this is my day. This is how it's going to go. This is my flow.
Yeah.
And those stops like that really, really jar me.
Mm-hmm.
If I see it an hour out, I'm like, that's cool. I'll look for it myself, but it's just if I've planned my day. So the way that my team works with me, they really try to support me and get me, like I said, to point B. However, I recognize that we all work differently. And that is the one thing that I think I have an obliger. And what's your tendency?
Upholder.
Upholder. Oh
Readily
my God,
meets outer and inner. Yeah.
yes, I have an upholder. Yes.
And so how do you
Um,
work differently to manage their differences?
For my obliger, I am constantly making sure that I am affirming them. I'm constantly saying, I see you and thank you for doing this. I go out of my way with gratitude. I mean, I will find the thing so that she can feel seen and that I honor her work. I mean, it's conscious. I go out of my way to do that because I know that makes her feel good, and she doesn't get in a space where she doesn't feel worthy.
Right.
My upholder, we work really well together. I mean, because that's my assistant, and so she's organizing everything, except when she doesn't put those
we've all done it. Yeah.
those links in. But for her, I just let her go because I give her the task. And then I know that she's always going to come back with the information for me, and she's going to see it in a 360 more so than I will. And so that's very valuable to me. And it's very helpful.
Well, I think that's a great example of how with teams, you don't want everybody to agree or have the same perspective, because everyone's sort of bringing their own strengths and weaknesses, and everybody's complementary, and kind of the combination is stronger than just like having everybody be exactly on the same page in terms of tendency.
100%.
Yeah. Well, Carla, it's so much fun to talk to you always. Thank you so much for sharing your insights as a rebel. This was so fascinating, and I'm sure all your fellow rebels are going to really love, and all the people who are trying to understand rebels are going to appreciate your insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. Go Rebel!
Yeah.